I will introduce you and then we can get started with our conversation for today. Hello, guys. Welcome back to my channel. I hope that this is not your first time joining me, but if this is your first time, I hope you can subscribe and come back and have a conversation with us whenever we have our live sessions going. Today, we have an amazing individual that I am looking forward to talking to. I have a lot of questions, and I hope you have questions too. But we will be discussing one way. I think we will discuss more than one way, but we will be honing in on one way to solve the Nigerian housing problem, or at least one way that we can tackle it together. And I have with me here Mr. Kemfon Decade. I'm going to introduce him as Mr. Kemfon Decade because I would like for him to introduce himself further. But I am really excited for us to talk about housing and solutions because what else are we going to discuss if not solutions? Yes. So welcome to the show, Kemfon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to join you live. I want to believe everybody can hear me. I want to be so. If you can hear me, I want to believe everybody can hear me.
Yes, I
Right?
can hear you. Yes.
All right, fine. My name is Kem Fon Decade. I am the CEO of Decade Homes, right? Decade Homes Limited. We're basically based in Nigeria, Akwa Ibom and Abuja. For now, we're hoping to expand into other cities. We play majorly in the property construction and property management space, and we've done that for the last 9 years. And I think we've fully come of age right now, so we understand the housing sector in Nigeria, the problems, the issues, and of course, certainly the solutions. So we're here to talk solutions and
I'm really excited you talked about invest. Yes, I don't know. I hope we're not losing each other, but let me know. Let me know if you can hear me still. Can everyone hear me? Hello, Medyong. It's nice that you're here. Can everyone hear me? Let me know if you can hear, guys. Please let me know if you can hear. If you can hear, please leave a comment and we will continue. And if you cannot hear, please leave a comment as well and I will adjust my mic. Okay, so while we wait for sweet, thank you, Emma Edion. Thank you so much for acknowledging that you can hear. Thank you, Essa. So I was saying I am excited that you mentioned investment, that we're going to talk about investment opportunities because I think that is one of the ways that we can solve this housing crisis or problem. So before we get into all of that, I like for all of my guests to introduce themselves, where they are from in Akwa Ibom or in Nigeria, just so that the average Nigerian can understand that this is not magic. This is somebody just like you and I who is from the same place and from the same struggles. So please tell us where you're from in terms of your local government if you want, and just life as a Nigerian before we dabble into construction and real estate. Hello, guys. Let me know if you can still hear me. Um, Mr. Kempfan will be back and then we can continue. I have a lot of questions for him regarding real estate since he has been in construction and in the real estate space for almost a decade. They know, and it's funny because it's just like the name of their company, Decade Homes. And I have actually worked with Decade Homes before on a personal project. So I'm excited that I get to talk to Mr. Kemfon here, the CEO of Decade Homes. And as a Nigerian, as a young Nigerian, he's very passionate about using his skills and using his team to solve, one of the problems that we happen to face in Nigeria, which is housing. So I do apologize because I'm not sure the connection is in and out, but I think we have him back. Yeah. So I was just telling the people that you will be telling us where you're from in Nigeria, just so we, know a bit more about you, and just so we know that you are one of us, and you didn't just drop from um another planet. You saw the problems that we're facing and you decided to do something about it. So please tell us where you're from and how all of this got inspired.
Okay, so I am from Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. I'm from Itu local government, of course. And then I studied estate management, so I'm an estate
Hmm.
understand the field exactly. Homes particularly was I saw an opportunity to create a one.
Guys, let me know if you can still hear Mr. Kempfan.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear
Yeah.
you now.
So yep. So from when you states to when you finally do the investment, you just have all of us in one space. So you
Hmm.
can have an estate surveyor who guides you on the investment. You have a land surveyor who does the surveying for you. You have a quantity surveyor who gives you the cost. You have an architect who draws the plan. You have architects and engineers who are on site
Right.
with you. And then again, the estate surveyors who manage the building for you to make money out of it. That was our intention when we started Decade Homes. And that's how we have built all through. So we started this in.
Hmm. So, guys, please share this link with your friends and family members.
Yeah,
Share it with
we've
your
been
friends.
doing that
Okay.
now. Right.
Yes. No, you're fine. I was just telling everybody watching to keep sharing the link and sharing it to those who would like to join. Please keep going. So you have
All right.
managed to
So
build this one-stop shop for all,
yeah.
construction, right? And if somebody were to be interested, an individual corporation, if they were interested in investing in real estate, whether they wanted to be just, a developer where they develop and sell, or they wanted to own it to be a landlord, that's something that Decade Homes would handle. Is
Totally.
that
Totally.
okay?
Completely. Yeah, I feel like that's the entire essence of why we are in business, right? Of course, you would remember the basic needs of man, right? Food, clothing, and then shelter, right? And we
Right.
looked at the shelter space and realized that there was a gap in the industry. What was the gap? A lot of people were investing in real estate but did not understand the real estate business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So real estate does not start with owning properties or being a landlord, right? In between that process, there are a whole lot of things that you need to understand, right? And we realized that a lot of people were just building houses and they were not making money out of the houses they were building.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to, right? The reason I thought to bring everybody together was I didn't want any gap in between, right? I wanted to understand what the architects see as real estate, what the quantity
Exactly.
surveyor sees as real estate, what the finances, the guys who do the landscaping, what they see
Right.
as real estate. So we merge all of these ideas and get to a point where we can advise the client in the right way we should advise the client. I think summarily that was what brought us to Decade Homes eventually.
I mean, I was just telling everybody when network was acting up that I have worked with Decade Homes personally on a personal project, and I can testify, right? Your style of doing really it is amazing. I work as an architect here in the US, and it saddens me to when I look back, back home in Nigeria, the way we do construction, the way we treat real estate, and like you said, there are so many properties that are just laying waste. They're not making the sort of money they should make. They're not, the functionality of these buildings are not really what they should be because of you could clearly see the gaps that were not considered during construction or during the planning phase. So I appreciate, hearing this for me is refreshing and it gives me hope in the future of construction in Nigeria. So yeah, thank you. That it's amazing to hear. So, yeah, please continue. And I would encourage anybody that has any questions, just feel free to drop it in the comment, and myself or Mr. Kempon will answer it. Okay, so I'll let you continue.
All right. So let me give like a brief um, analogy of how the real estate space works in Nigeria, right?
Mhm.
Majorly, there are two ways people play in the real estate space in Nigeria, right? You either play mostly through people buy lands and hold, and then they actually get to sell. So that's land flipping,
Mhm.
right? And then we also have a situation where people buy the lands, build the houses, and then rent it out to people, right? Now, this is dependent on where you are doing these investments, right? If you're
Right.
doing these investments in the urban areas, right? So in areas like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, people would most likely build and then sell, or
Right.
build and then rent, right?
Right.
But that's how we have played in the real estate space in Nigeria. But at some point, that wasn't sustainable, right? Because a lot of people needed to understand clearly. I go into the real estate. As a matter of fact, recently there was an argument where people said they do not believe in that there's a return on investment in rental real estate, right? So tenement buildings, building a house and renting it out, right? And
Right.
of course, people argued for and people argued against. Now, the traditional setting is I think real estate is lucrative. I build a house and I rent the house. That's all.
Mhm. Right.
No understanding of the market, no understanding of when should I be building, where should I be building,
Who
what
is my
kind of
ideal
property should I be building.
customer, right? Who am
Yeah,
I building for? Nobody thinks about
yeah, who am
that.
I building for, right? So people rarely did all of this analysis. It was just a function of, well, everybody's investing in real estate and everybody's building,
Mhm.
so let me build and then
Yeah.
join the market, right?
The
And
idea
of
of being
course,
a
because
landlord. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah. And so because you do not do your feasibility and viability studies,
Mhm.
typically what happens is that one person builds and is making money out of it, and then you build and you're not making money out of it, right? Because there was no demand for the property that you
Exactly.
built. Right? So my understanding of this market is if you want to do commercial real estate, you'll probably be looking at places like Lagos. You cannot be
Right.
thinking of commercial real estate and look at small cities because commercial real estate does not thrive in small cities. Small
Absolutely.
cities are one of the fastest people to adapt to the work from home situation. And that's because, first, we have to look at the economic realities on our real estate space,
Mhm.
right? We look at the fact that smaller cities have um, the unemployment situation really affects the small cities.
Yes.
So you do not have people who can afford to get to rent the offices you're building, but you're building commercial real estate. One thing is
Exactly.
certain, it won't work. If you want to invest in commercial or industrial real estate, you look at the big cities. So if I,
Absolutely.
as an investor without any knowledge, I move and invest, put my money into commercial real estate in a place like, say, Akwa Ibom, for instance,
Hmm.
and I come back 5 years after and say real estate is a bad business. The problem is not real estate. The problem is me not doing my feasibility studies, not understanding the market, but going ahead to invest. What we've had over the years in the real estate space is people not understanding the market because they do not talk to professionals, to talk to quacks. And you cannot totally blame them also. So, because quacks are for people to speak to,
They're available, and
right?
for some reason, they seem to be less costly short term, but more costly long term. And it's
In
like
the
people are
long term.
not thinking of it like that. If you talk to a professional, surely it might cost you a bit more, consultation fee upfront. But long term, you have a solution that will work for as long as, right? But like you said, they trust Quarks because, and this is one of the things I want us to talk about. How can we restore, how can construction companies or real estate, developers, how can we restore that public faith, right? Because people don't trust professionals. I don't even think they know what professionals to go to. So I'm glad that I think we're talking about where you're answering my questions as you go, but really that's something that we should talk about public trust because I think we lack it right now in not just construction but really almost all aspects of work in Nigeria.
So yeah, with the construction sector, right? I feel like it largely falls on the professionals to restore the trust. And for me, having played in this space and having done a lot of research in this space, I feel like the first thing is professionals are not accessible. They are not accessible. If you're looking for a land in Nigeria today,
Hmm.
an agent, as we call them here, or quacks, as we call them here, are most likely to give you the lands you're looking for than a professional is going to give you. And the reason is most professionals don't put in the work the way these agents put in the work. So
They're
it
not
is largely
accessible,
dependent on the professional. Yeah,
so people
it's
don't know
largely
where to
dependent on the
find them.
professionals.
Is that it?
We don't know where to find them.
We don't know where to
And
find them. Okay.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes it is because professionals belong to associations and regulatory bodies, right, that do not allow them to advertise.
Mm.
So that, in my opinion, is a limitation. So as a professional, right, you are not allowed to advertise in most of the professions. So Nigeria Institute of Estate Surveyors, Nigeria Institute of Architects, and all of that, you are not allowed to advertise.
So
My
you
question is,
couldn't.
if I do not advertise,
Yeah. No, no, please. This is shocking news for me. You're not allowed to advertise
so
your services. It's
you're not,
bizarre.
you're not. So if I do not advertise, how do I get known?
Exactly.
Right. Personally, I would have loved to have graduated from school and, of course, open an estate management firm and done the things that all my colleagues are doing. But the thing is, if I do that, I would just be doing the normal professional stuff, and then I'm not going to solve a problem,
Hmm.
right? And my thinking is we should be solving a problem in the housing sector, right? We should not just be doing this because we want to make money, but we should be solving a problem. And that is what it is for me. How do we solve a problem? And why we
Yeah,
decided to
absolutely.
solve right? So how do we get more people to understand the market, understand the sector, and invest in the market so we can have something that looks like a balance where there's demand and supply? The disadvantage of demand and supply mismatch is that there's going to be a real estate bubble every other time, right?
Yeah.
Landlords, like it's currently happening in Nigeria, landlords
Right.
just wake up and decide, look, I'm going to skyrocket my rent, and there's nothing you're going to do about it.
Absolutely. Because I mean, what other
Because
option? If you're kicked out, where you can't just say, okay, well, I'm
yeah,
gonna rent from the next person. You can't because it's not available.
yeah, yeah. So I would skyrocket my rent without any notice, and then nothing will happen. So if
Absolutely.
we get more players into the sector, right, what would typically happen would be that these people don't have this level of leverage,
Exactly.
right? And that's why we're in business. But speaking
Exactly.
again to investment options, right? Speaking again to investment options, for me, how I categorize Nigeria, if I want to do um, residential investments, right, I'll
Hmm.
look at where there's a lot of population. So I'll be looking at
Exactly.
Lagos. But
Right.
I need to also bear in mind that if I go to Lagos, my cost of investment is going to be double
Increase.
of what my cost of investment would be if I were investing in Akwa Ibom, right?
But then,
And I cannot be thinking,
mhm. No, no, no.
yeah, please go ahead, go
You're
ahead.
right. No, because yes, you want to also do that. But then, if we're looking at right now, where we have more people working remotely, right? We have so many young people going to the tech space and they're working from home and they're relocating into less noisy, less busy with traffic, less costly areas in the country like Akwa Ibom. So I'm thinking, yes, it's a good argument if you want to get into real estate. And I suppose if you want to make fast returns, you should probably look into Legos. But like you said, the cost of that investment will double. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I would
So
would you
so
rather
again, this,
would you rather invest in Legos real estate or in Akwa Ibom? Right now, today in 2025.
my personal opinion, I will go where the cost is low and I'll know that I'll make my return on investment. And I would actually go to where I understand the market fully. But it largely depends more on what kind of investment I'm interested in doing. And
Mm,
again, the kind of real estate investor I am. If I'm a long-term investor, I would think of a particular place. If I'm a short-term investor, I'll think of, frankly, if I'm a short-term investor today, and I have the capital, I'll invest in Abuja.
really?
I can literally build a house in a I can literally build a house in Abuja for 200 million and sell it for 900 million when the house is not completed. I mean, for a billion naira when the house is not completed. These are things that are
Right.
happening currently in the Abuja real estate space, right? So if I'm a short-term
Yeah.
investor, that's where I'm going to put my money,
That's what you would
right?
do.
But if I
Okay.
truly want to solve yeah. So if I truly want to solve a problem and I am a long-term investor, I have my capital, I want to think in the long term, depending on the kind of investment, right? I
Mm,
probably would be going to other remote areas. So if you say you want to come to Akwa Ibom, for example, you are a
right.
first-time investor, um, you can come to the Akwa Ibom market. You won't spend a lot of money. There's still land is still very easily accessible and
Hmm.
it is cheap. The cost of land registration, it's easy, right? The cost of labor, it's easy. You can literally just buy a land today, get it registered in 2 months,
Yeah.
build your stuff. No much restrictions,
Hmm.
right? Less regulations, and you can just do your things. Our zoning laws and our building codes are not exactly maturing yet, so you have the opportunity to just do your thing, right? Of course, if you want to invest in things like tourism, you'll be looking at places like Akwa Ibom, like Cross River, right? Because you have a lot of tourist attraction in those places, right? Then you can also do rental investments in Akwa Ibom. I feel like Akwa Ibom is picking up in rental investments, so prices of real estate, which is where I think I'm currently having a problem right now, right?
What is? Yes.
The cost of the cost of renting an apartment right now seems to be just skyrocketing, and I'm trying to think what exactly is the problem.
But what kinds of apartments are they? What kind are we? Because I have friends who have rented in recent years, and they will share the apartments they find, and you know, so what sort of apartments? Because I'm very weary of apartments where I mean, you go in as a tenant and you're like, what colors? Who picked the colors on this wall? Because again, if you're thinking of real estate to rent, right? You have to put yourself in in the customers or the renters' shoes and say, okay, if I walk into a space, and I'm telling you this for a fact, these things sell apartments even faster than the cost of the apartment, right? Because of the setup, the like, how are you able to see yourself in this space to live there or to do business there and all of that? I think the final touches and the finishing touches are not being paid attention to, even in the ways we do buildings. So that's also a problem that I think is, if I was a landlord or a developer, I'd pay attention to those, finishing touches even more. So, but
We can speak to the construction sector, and trust me, we'll need 3 days to speak about that, right? Or even more.
yeah,
Because the things that happen in our construction space is absolutely just crazy, right? So yeah, I'll just touch on that a little bit, right? And then go back to the investment part of it, right?
yeah,
So what happens typically in construction spaces? Two factors play out. The clients who wants either quality or wants quantity, and the developer
yes.
who has an image to protect or just wants to make money. So those are the things that play out here. So the client thinks to his mind and says, okay, I want to build. And he walks to the Decade Homes, for example, and says, look, this is what I want to do. I have, say, 500 square meters, and I want to put 30 rooms in 500 square meters. And we say to him, we cannot be part of that project because you shouldn't be putting 30 rooms in 500 square meters. And he says, look, my friend in the other place did the same thing. Right? And true story, this has happened recently. A client took us to a land and said he wants to put whatever he said he wants to put. And we're like, look, this will not work. We can make adjustments for you here and there. And he said, okay, no problem. Somebody did that here, somebody did that here, and he's probably gone to the person. The disadvantage of that is this. By the time they are done putting whatever they want to put on that space of land, it's going to be absolutely terrible. But again, you can't exactly blame them. The reason you can't blame them is that demand and supply mismatch. So I would rather just get any space for any price because I need to live in a house, right? Than be more
Hmm.
selective because I'm not sure if I'm going to see
Define
another
another one.
apartment, right? So once we have that mismatch,
Yeah,
right, the investors can do anything they choose to do. And it's a two-way
absolutely.
street. How do we governments and more investors? Government and more investors. I
Government and
feel
more
personally,
investors. Okay.
I feel
Government and
personally
more
that it's
investors.
not the duty of government to do business, right? I feel like the government should just create an enabling environment for investors to thrive,
Hmm.
right? And how does the government do this? Yeah. Make your land, your tenement law, land registrations really very easy. Let it be a one-stop point. So when I go here, I know that I'm doing every single thing I'm supposed to do, right? Let lands be registered. So we do not have issues where people buy lands today and the next day they hear it's government land. This
It
land has
was,
already been
yeah.
bought by someone else. There is
Yeah,
no make the process of due diligence a lot easier,
exactly.
right? That's where the government can play. If you create an enabling environment, right, investors are going to come. Another thing is for developers, right, where the government can help developers is make it easy for developers to access funds. If you make it easy for us to access funds, make double-digit interest rates. Sometimes it cannot be set by governments. Those interest rates are sometimes set by the central bank, so that may be a little bit difficult. But if it is easy for me to access funds, if it is easy for me to get loans, and then the interest rate makes sense, right? And of course, I'm going to get that. I'm going to invest in real estate. Right?
Yeah.
If developers cannot invest, private individuals can invest. And this is where, for the markets we play in, which is Abuja and Akwa Ibom for now, this is where I think that, look, we have a problem on our hands and we need more private individuals and organizations to invest in real estate. It's really crazy. What apartments are available? I mean, for what's the apartment that is mostly in demand? One bedroom flats, two bedroom flats are mostly in demand, right? And the prices of these apartments are over the roof for the Nigerian economy, right?
But
Most of
is
this,
that
most
sustainable, and should that be, especially because, and maybe this is just me and this the type of investor I am, long term. I'm always thinking long term. If I have to, I mean, yes, there are short term opportunities you can make money off of, but I don't honestly think that necessarily applies to real estate, except if you're doing Airbnb. But sorry, so this is what I'm saying. If you are going into real estate in Nigeria to do, to just make quick returns, that's good. But again, look at the location, because if you're charging something that you're going to charge this amount yearly, and surely you have plans of recovering your capital, then why are you, why is the price where it's at, when you know that you're trying to make money off of this over time? And that's the long term, aspect of it. If something is long term, then you can always reduce um, the cost, right? The initial whatever that tenants have to pay. So why are housing costs more than what Nigerians, an average Nigerian, can afford? Because
so
it's not
it
matching
largely
up.
depends on I feel like it's a function of why people get into real estate. Right? The first thing I understood in real estate is that real estate makes you money in perpetuity. That's the first understanding I had of real estate. And I am grateful to the people who gave me that understanding because that's the bedrock with which everybody should come into real estate in perpetuity.
Exactly.
There is no other investment. There is no other that you would be involved in that you would earn in perpetuity without exactly working.
Exactly. Your generations to
You know
come.
what I mean?
Like, it's
So you're going to earn, and then every other person is going to earn generations after that.
after
Even
you.
if they choose to sell at a point,
Exactly.
they will sell at the present market value of that year they choose to sell. And they had generated a lot of income from it before that year, right? That's the
Exactly.
bedrock of my real estate, right? And so, but unfortunately, that's not the understanding of a lot of people who are investing in real estate. People see real estate as a quick fix. I'm putting my money in today. I expect to get my money in out tomorrow. You're not selling this. There's not buying and selling. It's not biscuits,
It's not forex, it's
right?
not gambling, but that's how they
Yeah.
choose to treat
So
it.
so it's an investment, right? So the first thing is the mentality needs to change,
Yes.
right? I'm going to put in my money. This sand and cement or brick and mortar is going to hold my money for me. And every day I'm going to come here and I'm going to take my money out of it, right? If the economy
Mhm.
gets bad, going to it puts an increment on my rent, and I'm going to make more money out of it without necessarily
Without
working.
having to do anything else to the building.
The investor,
It's
or adding anything else
yeah,
to the building, yeah. The investor is not the person who manages. So he's literally not doing anything, right? The property managers are doing the management. All he knows is that at the end of every other month, money comes into his account. That's fine.
exactly.
But most people who invest in real estate seem to approach real estate like, I'll put in my money today and I have to reap my money out tomorrow. They forget about the fact that it's in perpetuity. So real estate is mostly long term, whatever space of the real estate you want to play. If you decide to make real estate short term, what will happen will be that you create a bubble. The disadvantage of the bubble is that you're going to make a lot of money out of it, but one day we'll wake up and there will be no bubble again. And how do you manage the expectations that would have been crushed with the absence of that bubble? Right. So it is best for us to rise when we invest in real estate just the way the economy rises, right? Let's
Yeah.
not invest in real estate and expect quick returns. Most investors right now are increasing the prices of on rental property because they feel like, look, I built my house. So typically this is what happened. I built my house in 2005, for instance.
Hmm.
At the time I built my house, the bag of cement was 1,500 naira. And today, a bag of cement is about 9,000 naira.
I know where you're going with this, and I do not like it already.
So the guy who
Wow.
built his property, the guy who built his property today pegs his price at the price of his, say, a condo, right?
Hmm.
Which is like a self-contained apartment here.
Yeah.
He pegs that price at, say, 500,000 per annum. And the guy who built his property 10 years ago wakes up and also pegs the price at 500,000 per annum. He's not added any new thing to the property. He's not changed anything on the property just because this other guy who built in 2024 is giving it at 500,000 naira. He believes that he should give it at 500,000 naira. That is what is happening in the real estate space in Nigeria. Nothing else. So everybody feels like, look, if this guy is making this amount of money from it, I can make this amount of money from it, right? So
So how do we, because what you're saying, it is a big problem, and it's not a problem that you can just say, okay, I will educate this person, da da da. This is a national problem, right? Because it's the same way we do business with other anything else, food, the cost of pepper today. If you bought your peppers like 2 weeks ago and today it's more, then you make more profit because you're now selling at today's price. So I think it is it is a capital sin to you know to draw a parallel like that and apply the same thing in real estate. And like you said, we do need more players because if there are more players in the market with anything, you would tip the balance, and the people who have been controlling, like a landlord just waking up to put their 1978 house at the same price as a house that was built in 2010. That is not something that should happen, right? Because you okay, so again, I don't know the transparency that comes with if you're wanting to rent in Nigeria. I've never rented in Nigeria before. I still lived with my parents before I moved away from Nigeria, so I've never rented there. So I do not know the amount of transparency that comes with buildings. But again, you don't have a lot of options. So even if they're not transparent, you sort of don't mind. But here you get to know when a building was built and da da da, if it's been renovated or any other important thing you should know or shouldn't know. So how do we deal with that? Because we have a lot of young people now, more young people exists now in Nigeria than older people. We have more people who are thinking of building young families, and surely they would benefit from having a new place they can, start their families at. So how do we deal with this? How do we educate? I say educate, but I don't think they want to be educated. But how do we get around, landlords who are hiking up prices unnecessarily? Can the government even do something about that? Like, is there a regulatory board with, buildings that can say you can't put this building was built, in this period, you can't put price da 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 unless you do so and so renovations. Is there anything like that? I don't know.
Okay, so we do not have such regulations, right? Not that we do not have people who can make such regulations, but we do not have such regulations. And also, personally, as a business guy, I am weary of a lot of regulations because a lot of regulations actually force business people out of business,
Sure.
right? But I think this is how we solve the problem: get more investors to invest, get investors who understand to invest. And I don't think that people see what the problem is, right? So let me paint it this way. Our population is skyrocketing.
It is.
There's a problem that is coming. And I don't know the population of Abuja actually, but let me speak for Akwa Ibom. In 2015, right, the population of Akwa Ibom was said to be 5 million. Mind you, Akwa Ibom is a civil service state, right? So population was said to be 5 million. Between 2015 and today, 2024, let's say that population has risen from 5 million to say 7 million. Fact is, 70% or 60% of that population want to live in urban areas because they
Absolutely.
believe that they have access to light, access to basic amenities, right? Good education for their children, and all of that. What that has led to is that where used to be the Uyo community is beginning to expand.
Mm-hmm.
So the state capital is not like the state capital expanding, but what we're having is that more people are looking for houses or lands around the state
Around.
capital because
Yes.
they want to have access to basic amenities. If you and I do not invest in this market, typically what would happen would be that the people who are investing in this market do not have the understanding that we have.
Exactly.
So what they will do is that they will get these lands that are available in places around the state capital
Mm-hmm.
for a cheap price, a very low rate, and they're going to skyrocket it. They're going
Absolutely.
to create a false rise in the real estate space. And for me, leaving the government out of it because I am afraid of government regulations, it can go left, it can go right, it can send you out of business and it can help your business. Right. So I
Absolutely.
do not exactly like to speak to government regulations because sometimes these guys make regulations and you're like, they could have just allowed us be. But I would prefer to speak to investors, right? We need to get people who understand this space and have the capital to come into the investment to the real estate space. And I'm not looking at, when I speak about real estate investment, I am not exactly very concerned with one individual coming to invest.
That's what I wanted to say, that
I want,
people can,
yeah,
families, and again, I will let you complete your thoughts, but families, friends, like, no, just come together, earn shit. Just come together and pull your funds together and earn things. So it doesn't have to be one individual. Sorry, continue.
yeah. So you were absolutely spot on, right? So for me, partnership buildings are the easiest way to get all of us to invest in real estate.
Absolutely.
Right. The project we're currently building for Decade Homes project is a partnership building. So we realized that young people are not investing in real estate, and to our minds we're thinking, how do we get young people to invest in real estate? So let's get a land
Mm,
and let's come up with a building plan. And let's take so we got a land in a space where we know that because we understand this market, we got a land in a
right.
space where we know that there's a demand
Absolutely.
and there's a demand for specific kind of build. And then we came up with a plan and we went to young people and said, look, you can invest in this, just buy one apartment and own it and make money out of it. We do not want you to live in it.
Yeah.
You're just going to rent it out, we would administer it, right? And you're going to make money out of it. You know the problem. The
What?
problem is, as we speak, no young person in Akwa Ibom that we approached has shown interest. As a matter of fact, the young people who have shown interest in this project are young Akwa Ibomites who are living outside of Akwa Ibom.
So the
And for
people in
me,
the state
that
do not see.
they don't care. They don't care.
I have a theory on that, but I'd like for you to
Okay.
talk about it because that is an interesting thing to observe.
Yeah. So this is how I understand how this space works. When people outside do a lot of things, people inside would begin to think of, oh, we can do this thing,
Yes.
right? I don't think that it is just a problem with the places we operate in. I think that it is a problem generally with how young people in Nigeria respond to things, right? We we sometimes would want to see other people do it and then it works before we now get involved in it, right? And I feel like
Mhm.
yeah, and I feel like for us it was beyond real estate. It was how do we get monies in the hands of young people, right? So they can speak to the government boldly and say to the government, look, this is what we need, this is what we want, because we are investors in ABCD areas, right? And that was what we were thinking of. But that didn't work. Nonetheless, it does not mean that because our concern is to solve a problem. Really, we really do not care about who gets involved or not, provided the
Exactly.
problem is being solved.
It's solved, yeah.
Right. So yeah, so I think that what we should do as people, if we have to get these guys who are creating this real estate bubble out of the deal, is we need to get people, smart investors, long-term thinking investors, to get into it. I don't, I'll give you an example of a project in Abuja. When the project started, right, from bill of quantities, cost analysis, feasibility studies, we had pegged that we're going to sell that building, not a finished building, a partly
Mhm.
finished building. We're going to sell it. So what is in Nigerian parlance is referred to as kakas,
Okay.
right? So
Yes.
we're going to sell that
So
at
it's the corn
say,
shell.
yeah. We're going to sell that at say 600 million. And then one day our investor opposite us is selling for 900 million. We can sell for 900 million. And then he pegged his price at that. And people are actually buying.
Wow.
It feels good for the investor that he's making his money.
Absolutely.
The disadvantage is that what has been sold to this guy who is buying is not in terms of value. The
Not the
price with which he
same.
has bought it does not reflect the value of the property.
Yeah.
He won't feel the effect of that today. But in 3, 4 years, 5 years, depending on the trajectory of economic policies of Nigeria, he's going to feel the effect of that.
Yeah.
right? And this is how real estate bubbles are being created, right? Our duty as developers or professionals in this to give this information. But no matter how we talk, if we do not have people understand this real estate market who are willing to understand it and willing to make money out of it
Yeah,
perpetuity, if we do not have them come into the space, we'll keep talking, but we'll not have results. And for me, I'm all for
absolutely.
results. Let's have
Yes. So,
let's have people.
and I love that because when I was discussing with the 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 friend who recommended you here, um, I was really excited because I think one of the things that we should talk about, and you've already mentioned it as general contractors or builders, construction companies, should be the ones to help restore that public trust, right? And I think I think that we could maybe help to facilitate that um, by way of marketing. So there is something about how people do not see or do not hear about a particular thing. It's just out of mind, out of sight. I Out of sight, out of mind. I think if developers or like decade homes, if say you're working on a projects like that needed the individuals or even families to sort of invest in long-term investments, maybe we could use marketing to sort of get them. Or do you not think that that works? Like I'm sure you've done, you sort of marketed, these projects to the young people, and maybe that's how you discovered they were not interested. So can you talk to us about that? If somebody wanted to get started in, a real estate investment, or wanted to invest in a property where other people could invest their funds, like a retirement, you know savings of some sort, how would they get started? I mean, apart from reaching out to you, of course, what should they be thinking about?
With retirement homes, I mean, when it has to do with retirement,
No, I mean, like
so
it could be a
everything.
retirement. It could be a retirement plan. Sorry, I should clarify. It could be a retirement plan, like investing in real estate, right? And just that could be a retirement plan, not a retirement home, although that also sounds great, but I don't think we are there yet in Nigeria to have
Okay,
retirement
so
homes.
so so I remember some 2 years ago, I was invited to speak to a group of civil servants, right, about investments as it had to do with retirement.
Mm,
And there's nowhere else for you people to go to. There's nowhere else. There's going to come a time in your lives where you cannot work, is what life is.
mhm.
And in that moment, the only thing you need is something that can give you money when you're not working. And I can tell you assuredly, the only thing that would not require your brain and not require your energy is real estate. Right? I think after I spoke, someone else spoke after me, and he was telling them to put their money in the stock exchange and put their money in forex and all of that. And I found that really very funny. So sometimes you decide that there are some levels of argument you're not going to go into, right? But
Absolutely.
I feel like the current minimum wage of Nigeria, right? I'm going to speak about state civil servants now.
Mhm.
No state civil servant alone, except he's corrupt, right? Now I'm saying this loosely, I stand to be corrected,
Yes.
can afford to build a house, really. If you look at the Nigeria of today, right? The guy who is at the top echelon of the state civil service in Nigeria today earns probably in salaries and allowance earns something around 500,000, right? If you look at 500,000, what's the cost of buying a land? What's the cost of building a house in present day Nigeria? The only saving grace you have, whether it's a retirement plan or whether it's a retirement home, is partnership.
Absolutely.
So we're going to work together. We're going to get a piece of land. We are going to jointly build, sorry, on that piece of land, probably a
Mhm.
semi-detached building. And you're going to live in yours and I'm going to live in mine and we are going to be happy. Right? That's typically what it is. If we're not going to build to live in, we are going to build to rent.
Right. Yeah.
Take a space like Akwa Ibom, for instance, take a space like Port Harcourt, River State, for instance, right? What kind of properties are we going to build if we have a small capital,
Mhm.
right, or low capital? What we're going to do is that we're going to look to student housing, which student housing is low investment, quick money spinner, right? Because students are certainly going to live off campus. And the kind of
Absolutely.
student in Nigeria that pay
Sure.
most times is not their money. So they're not thinking.
Yeah.
They just go back home and say, look, my rent is 500,000. And they believe that 500,000 should be given to them. And somehow,
Yeah.
miraculously, it is given to them. And you really don't have a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
And then the management with student housing is actually easier to do because if the student does not pay, you can pick up your phone and call the parent, and the parent is going to pay, as compared to if you
Right.
were managing a house where someone is living with a family. So investors can look at that aspect with their little capital, and then and of course, if you look at where universities are sited in Nigeria, is mostly universities are mostly in the outskirts of town,
Yeah.
right? Where um, uh, cost of land is low, cost of development is low. Cost of development majorly is material and labor,
Mhm.
right? One cost you don't have control over. Your labor cost, you can negotiate it, right? So once the cost
Exactly.
of labor is low, cost of land acquisition is low, you bring in 3 or 4 people together and say we can do this. We can actually do it. You can actually do it,
So
right?
with three
So
or
I
four
believe
people,
strongly.
did you
Yeah,
say with 3 or 4
yeah.
people? Okay, I want
Yeah, with three or
I
four
repeated
people,
that.
if
I
it
repeated
depends on the number.
exactly. I repeated that because I want our viewers or whoever is going to watch this after it's been uploaded to hear it really because there are most people that I know have friend groups of 3 or 4 people. That is literally enough for you to, and you don't have to manage these properties. You don't have to
Yeah,
honestly do anything apart from having the funds and having your investment long term and something your kids can inherit, something your grandkids can be proud of. So I think there's so many incentives and so many reasons why we should all come together, whether it's with our friends or with our families, to say, hey, how about we just stop renting that hut and just own it? Like that is really how simple it, like, okay, who am I building for? Who are we building for? What kind of people should we be partnering with? All of these things. And even as a Nigerian developer and builder and investor, you're also thinking, yes, I want to make my money, but also you're solving a need for another Nigerian. If you were the Nigerian, right, that was looking for a place to rent, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be served? So I think that these are some of the things that we can all be thinking about, whether we are investors or contractors, really. But yeah, I have so many
yeah,
other questions, and yeah, I'll let you
please,
go.
please. Yeah, I'm here with you. You can ask your questions. Right. So, so let me just touch on this a little. Is that it helps you solve problems that you ordinarily would have to think of solving, and this is what I mean. So, for people who, for instance, people who are outside Nigeria, and of course, the entire black tax stuff, right, where you have to send money back home and stuff. If you were in such situation, if you have a real estate investment here, you know that that real estate investment caters to a particular need in a particular space. So all they know is that, look, at the end of so period, you're going to get a so and so amount of money, and you use it to solve the problem you want to solve, and that's about
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So it gives you space to think of every other thing that you want to think of. So imagine that you owned five number one bedroom flats, right? And present day value of that in, say, somewhere like in Shelter Africa in Akwa Ibom would be 1 million naira per annum.
Hmm.
So you own five of that. You know that you have 5 million naira every year to spend on whatever you want to spend on. You're not working for it. You had already, by brick and mortar, you had already paid for that. So
Right.
5 million naira just comes, you allocate 1 million naira into feeding, 1 million naira into school fees, 1 million naira into whatever, frivolities, travel, whatever. And you just allocate your resources like that. It gives you a lot of mental space to think of other things.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of real estate investment against every other form of investment, right? You're not sweating it. You don't have to look for tenants because there is a demand and supply mismatch. Tenants will always gravitate towards you. All you need to
Absolutely.
do is perhaps put your property in a great condition, right? And people are normally going to come,
Absolutely.
right? And that's what real estate, yeah, that's what real estate can do for people within the space and outside of the space. And I feel like it's just a great thing. It's how do we speak about this for people to understand?
I
It's
do.
just that easy. Right?
I mean, I do have personal incentives because I'm an architect in construction, right? So I want to see more beautiful, buildings in Nigeria. I want to see real estate, properties where families are able to move into and live normal, decent lives. So I have a really strong passion for better buildings and more options, obviously, for renters in Nigeria. And I'm really excited because um, not only am I able to talk to you as a general contractor, because Decade Homes is a design build firm, right? So you design, it's
Yeah.
one stop shop. So you design and you build from beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I do think that I'd like to see more I want to see more Nigerians understand, and like you said, I guess more publicity or marketing might help with that, but I want to see more Nigerians be proud of owning properties in Nigeria. And because of me, like a family is able to move into a decent property, especially if you're living outside Nigeria. If you're living outside Nigeria and you can afford to, or you are having to send money back home, like you said, black tax every month or every year, and if this is a large sum that you sort of feel every time you send this money, you could just bundle all that money and build a home in Nigeria that helps you do all of that. So, like Kem Fon said, you don't have to think about, oh, I have to send money for this and that. There is already money that is just flowing, so you have this cash flow. So I'm inviting, if you are listening and watching this after it's been posted, and you are interested in real estate, if you have friends who might be interested, and you're thinking, oh, what's the point of building houses in Nigeria, what's the point of investing in Nigeria, that is a big problem right now too. A lot of people are scared of putting money back in Nigeria because they don't have any faith or confidence in the government. So that is another problem. So this is me encouraging you guys out there, especially people who are living outside Nigeria and you can afford to. Trust me, you can afford to, compared to what you're having to pay for cost of living out here. So if you can afford to, all you have to do is work with professionals who know exactly what they're doing, who understand the market and could answer all your questions. And that's why I'm excited that Mr. Kem von Decades was available to join us here and talk about these things. But my next question would be, regarding, I know you said you don't like to deal with the government, and I agree. As a business owner in Nigeria, you want to avoid the government at all costs, but we still have to deal with the government. Um,
Yeah.
so in construction, I know that a big problem also in real estate is, it's not just you owning the land and buying a great land in a remote area, which you think this is great for people for a residential, situation, but there are no access roads, or there's no connection, for electricity or any of or water or any of that. So how is this a problem? Do you see this as a problem, or is this something that I'm over exaggerating on? Because I do think it's discouraging, right? So you have to think of your own access roads to your own properties where you're helping other people live. I don't know. Maybe you can clarify on
So
that.
I think that with access road lights and all of those things, I think Nigerians are used to those things by now. Right? Trust me,
Should
you
we
won't be
be used to
surprised.
those things? Should we be used to it? Because we're discussing solutions. Should we be used to suffering so much that we think, okay, you know what, let's just manage this? Is that
So you first understand the root cause of the problem before you solve the problem, right?
true?
So I don't know if you will be surprised. I won't be surprised if in the course of this conversation the light goes off, right? So
I will not
the
be
thing is,
surprised.
so the thing is understanding the root cause of the problem and knowing if the problem is something you can solve
Mm,
before you venture into solving it. There are problems that are within the capacity of the developer or capacity of the investor to solve, and there are problems that you would rather advise the investor just look away from such problems, right? One of such
mm,
problems is the issue of light, right? The issue of power, right? It's really not within your control to solve it, right? So, I mean, in Nigeria right now, if I go to develop a property in a space where there's no electricity,
mhm.
and I try to get electricity to that space, so I buy the poles, right? And I do the electricity. The moment that pole arrives on that in within that area, it ceases to be my personal property. It now
Really?
becomes the property of PHPN. Yeah, so I cannot administer that property, that pole, even though I bought it with my money. So it ceases to be your property automatically, and it's now the property of the regulators, right? So you cannot. There are certain things you can control, and certain
Mm,
things you cannot control, right? We have an ongoing construction somewhere where we consistently have to contribute money to grade the road. At the end of the day, we need to do that for the people joyful every other time. So we need to
exactly.
make money. So we need to ensure that the road is accessible. Yes, we can speak to the government. Yes, we can say, government, look, come and fix this road and all of that. But again, the government tells you, look, we have a budget, right? A limited budget. We need to work with our budget. So we are not going to do that this year. We are not going to do it next year because we're probably looking in education and healthcare and probably not road infrastructure and all of those kind of things. But I feel like I feel like this thing still boils down to what I said initially about demand and supply mismatch. Some people really do not care where they live,
Mm,
right? They just want a house where, look, I need to go somewhere at the end of the day. My children need to be in a safe space at the end of the day. They really don't care if there's lights. We are used to providing lights for ourselves, right?
right.
I think the situation is a lot better right now. I think the light situation is a lot better right now.
I do think
But
so too.
prior to this time, we were used to providing lights for ourselves, either through generators or in recent times, solar and all of that. So, and some developers have thought of actually including a generating set in their houses or solar in their houses. So I feel like it's not really a factor that determines that really speaks to we needing the government or not needing the government. We just see, rather what we think of is where is a cost-effective location to buy a property and develop the property, and then that's really all we think of,
So that should
right?
not
In terms of
deter, that shouldn't deter investors. So if somebody, shouldn't think, oh, well, there is no light, so maybe I shouldn't, because the people who
no,
really will
it's
live
not,
in the
it's not a
place
problem.
do not care, right?
No,
So,
it's really not a problem. I mean,
okay,
you can live in a space today, and as at the time you packed in the light, and you the moment you move into that space in the next 9 months, you don't see light again. So,
that's
I mean,
true.
come on, that
Yeah,
that
you're
really
right.
hasn't been an issue. Of course, again, this thing. So, as a valuer, I can say that these things are supposed to affect property values,
Hmm.
right? But it really doesn't affect so much, especially in growing cities, right? In cities like, of course, we have Lagos and Abuja. Abuja just merely because it's the seat of power, right?
Right.
Lagos is a commercial hub of the country, so those things may affect. But
Yeah.
if you're investing in smaller cities, it really may not exactly be so much of a problem.
We have exceeded 60 minutes, like I had in mind, but it's wonderful talking to you. You are so knowledgeable about the real estate space, and I have learned so much, not just regarding construction in Nigeria, but also dealing with the government. Some things I did not know about, like, and also the regulatory bodies. So you can't just go and advertise your services. I did not know about that, and that's crazy. But my last question for you, Kempon. My last question for you will be, it's fairly easy, and this one is for, I guess, Akwa Ibomites in the diaspora or even just outside Akwa Ibom who want to invest in real estate in Akwa Ibom or the surrounding states, but Akwa Ibom. So, what would you say? What have you noticed to be the current housing trend in Akwa Ibom State or and also in Abuja, um, in terms of what are studios even a thing in Nigeria? Should they be a thing? Three-bedroom flats and all of that. Like, what is the trend that you're seeing? So if you can just answer that, and then we'll wrap up for today because I would like to have you back. So.
Okay, the trend in Akwa Ibom, hmm, trend in Akwa Ibom is studio apartments, right? One bedroom apartments. So I would tell any newbie investor to go with studio apartment and one bedroom apartment as a newbie investor, right? That's where you go. You spend less money, you understand the market, you make your money and see how you can grow from there. But if you are an experienced investor in Akwa Ibom, I'll tell you to look in the direction of hospitality, right? Hospitality,
So
make some mix with
hotels, more
tourism.
hotels?
Yeah, hotels.
Really? We need more
The thing
hotels
is,
in Akwa Ibom?
so the thing is, I was
The
one of
hotels
those
are not
prior to
even that
playing in the space.
fine. Can we have beautiful looking hotels? I don't mind hotels,
Now
but
the
they can't
thing,
all look the same. Painted yellow and
so
red,
so
like
the thing.
no.
So this is what it is, right? Prior
Yes.
to playing in the space, I was one of those people who used to complain about hotels. Why is everybody building a hotel?
Even our
Now,
governor
so
has a hotel, I think.
means to an end, right? Means to an end. So
Yes, yes.
the thing is, we were contacted by clients, right, who lives outside Nigeria to do a feasibility studies for hotels and shotlets, and she wanted to build in Akwa Ibom. See, when we started that research, I now understood why people should actually build. In fact, what we have is not enough. We
I
should
should
build
build more
more
hotels.
hotels. I can tell you
Really?
assuredly, I can tell you assuredly that if you get into the hospitality sector in Akwa Ibom State, you will make your money in a few years and you will be so happy with yourself. Look, the
Wow.
hospitality sector in Akwa Ibom State, it's just exploded,
But
right?
why is
And the
that?
thing
Who are
is,
those renting?
again,
Is it a Kwaibomites that are renting or Kwaibom politicians? Who are those renting these hotels?
so for an investor, your concern is not who is renting. Your
I
concern is not who
guess.
is staying in your space. Your concern is the fact that you're making money out of your space.
The
So
content
I
that
think
that
it's
they
a
are
culture thing.
staying. This is
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
So I think it's a cultural thing, right?
Yes,
The in my opinion, the average Akwa man just likes to be happy and just likes to relax and just likes to chill.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
you create, yeah, so you create an enabling environment for him to get what he wants,
true.
right? And that is how you make money out of the space, right? Now, also because Akwa Ibom is quickly becoming a tourism hub in Nigeria. So you have a lot of people who are coming to Akwa Ibom. Now, of course, I think the biggest competition of Akwa Ibom used to be Cross River,
Yes.
right? But in recent times, Cross River has had a serious decline, right? So Akwa Ibom has stepped up, right? We have been very lucky in my honest opinion. We have
Hmm.
been very lucky with the people who have governed us within the last 16 years, right? So
Yes.
it's been, yeah,
I'm
so it's
sad that
been
one of them is
one.
not doing so well in the Senate, but we are grateful.
Now
We are
that's
grateful.
that's okay. That's the
Yeah.
Senate. So let's speak about the states,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
we've been very lucky with the people who have governed us in the states, right? So it's
Yes.
been one person building on what the other person has done, and one person building on what the other person has done, right?
Mhm.
So we have created that niche for ourselves. That look, when you want to relax, good food, good road
Good
network,
women. Excuse
good
me.
people.
Kempfon. Kempfon, you are going to
Beautiful,
have a prominent one
beautiful
here.
women, beautiful
Thank
women,
you. Thank
beautiful women.
you.
So,
Thanks.
all right. So, thank you very much for having me. I think that there is a whole lot we need to speak about as regards real estate
Yes,
investments, and I hope that we get to speak about this some other time. Thank you so much for having me. It's totally my
absolutely.
pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. I
And
wish we can read all the comments, but everybody's been learning one thing or the other, and it's great, really. I've learned so much, really, and I appreciate you sharing. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope that we get to build on this and speak about the things we need to speak about and get people on board. Thank you so much. I'm deeply grateful, immensely grateful.
I'm the grateful one, really. Thank you. And like you said, I do hope that this is the beginning of hopefully something. I would like and the reason why I started doing these live sessions and talking to young entrepreneurs who are doing bringing amazing solutions to Nigeria is because I really want more people to know about this. Like I want more people to hear and watch this session afterwards and know that really there are people doing stuff in this space. There are people who you can trust, and there are just ways you can go about this. And I talk about the same in regards to the way we do business and the ways that things just you can't do something a certain way, get the wrong results, keep doing it and expect something else. So I'm grateful that you were able to share all of this, wealth of information with us. And truly, I will have you back. I will. We'll plan for it next year, and you'll come back, and hopefully we'll have more people joining the session. But thank you so much, Ken Fun. I wish you a wonderful week, and we will stay in touch. Thank you so, so much.
All right. Thank you. Hope to see you soon in Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I cannot wait. All right. Thank you so much. Bye. Thanks everybody for joining us. Bye. Thank you guys.